Welcome to Founders and Fortunes, the podcast where we explore how private markets, family offices, and next-generation founders are shaping the future of wealth. I'm Ryan Austin, and each episode we sit down with the people behind the deals, the innovation, and the strategies driving real impact. Today, I'm joined by Mike Keys, CEO of Quelliv, and Scott Absher, CFO, to discuss how they're redefining wellness and performance recovery with next-gen laser technology. What started as a high-end tool for elite athletes and top performers, including Tony Robbins himself, is now being made accessible to the broader market, and investors are taking notice. We'll talk about the science behind Quelliv, their expansion strategy, and why family offices and private investors are paying attention. If you're interested in where wellness, biohacking, and private capital intersects, this one's for you. Let's get started. All right. Hey guys, this is Ryan Austin doing my podcast today with Mike Keys, CEO of Quelliv, and Scott Absher, the CFO of Quelliv. Quelliv is a luxury laser company. It uses Am I saying that correctly?
Photobiomodulation.
Oh, wow. Photobiomodulation technology. And they have 4 locations in Florida. I think it's 4 with 5 on the way, or is it 3, 4 on the way?
4 with 5 on the way.
5th under construction. Yeah.
Yes, in Sarasota,
Yes.
Florida is the latest under construction. And I've been working with these guys for a couple months. Some really impressive technology, and I want to dig a little bit deeper into that today. Mike, I'll hand you the floor if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Quelliv, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, yeah, I'll start out if you like. Background a little bit. I guess it all started out. I'm an old collegiate football player, and after that, I went into getting out of school, and I went into a personal development business, selling seminars on attitudes and goals and personal development. Worked for a guy named Jim Rohn. Actually, I'm dating you a little here, Ryan. So this is back in the old days when it was Zig Ziglar, Ken Blanchard,
I know Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn. Those were the big speakers of the day. And I was one of the guys that filled the room along with another name you'll probably be aware of, a guy named Tony Robbins. And so Tony and I were the kind of number 1 or 2 sales guys for a number of years, going back and forth, filling the rooms for those speakers. Tony kind of branched off, and we started Robbins Research back then, the Robbins Research companies. He went off doing that, and I went on to commercial real estate, where I represented, a number of companies and hundreds of locations across the country. So traditionally, a company that would have 20 to 50 sites, they would hire my firm to handle all their lease negotiations, adding on space, getting rid of space, etc. Was basically in more of a kind of a quasi-retirement zone coming to the end there, and I ran into this doctor because of my challenge with my own health with knees and shoulders and sternum from football injuries. Just for you young guys, that once you turn 50, you start to feel every hit. So I went to this, I was told about a gentleman that had a laser. And I'd experienced lasers before because Tony Robbins has all the toys at his place. But I was told this is the best of the best, which I didn't know what that meant at the time. And he put these lasers on my knees, which were really tough to even walk on a treadmill. And pain went from a 9-10 to a 4-5 in the first sitting. And I went 2 days later, and it went to a 1 or 2. And then I went 2 days later, I went to 0. And basically got rid of all the pain. So I thought, this is goofy. I didn't know if this was just a gimmick and it was going to last a day, or if it was going to last a while. A couple of days go by, and I felt great. So I called Tony up, actually, and I said, you got to come out here and try it, because Tony had a number of health issues that he was dealing with. And he flew out to California from Florida, and he came in, met Dr. Antonio Casalini, our doctor of record here, and he came out to the second experience, and he looked at me and he said, we got to put this guy in the right. He said, this is incredible. I said, yes. First off, I said, great, I agree. And what part of we am I missing? We, because I know Tony wasn't going to do much, right? And so we started this company called Genesis One Laser, and which we took the technology from this doctor that he'd already created for us, and got the rights from the doctor, everything covered in that arena, and started selling lasers under the name of Genesis One. and sold, I don't know, a dozen lasers in the first month or two, and saw that there was a market selling the product. But these are to high net worth individuals, Ryan. This is a $75,000 to $100,000 product, right?
Right.
So, which was going well, but it wasn't, you're selling one laser at a time. It's not like it's a mass sale item by any means. And Scott and I have been friends for, gosh, I don't know, Scott, 30 years, plus or minus, right?
Yeah, over 30 years.
And worked together and friends together. And I sat with Scott because he had a background on raising funds and creating some pretty substantial entities, and talked to him about how do I take this up the food chain. And he came up with this suggestion that we should have these centers to where the person that maybe that couldn't afford to buy one can come and get a treatment. So your daughter gets injured at a soccer tournament, or some guy pulls his back out swinging a golf club. They can come in for $100 or so. They can get a treatment. So we opened up these centers called Quelliv centers, and Scott will explain how that name came around, and because that was his brainchild. And we opened up the first 4 beta tests. The 5th is under construction, as he said. And now we're ready to go into phase 2, where we make some modifications. Scott, why don't you tell a little bit about your history?
Yeah, no, and as you know, Ryan, I have a lot of background in the capital markets and raising capital for public companies or companies private going public. And so when Mike approached me about this, he's very excited about Dr. Castellini's innovation. And I got to meet Dr. Castellini, got to experience the technology, and was fascinated by the applications, where all he could go with this. And in doing my exploration, I wanted to get a sense for where does it fit into in the larger marketplace, because it's is it medical technology? Is it aesthetic technology? And what we learned was that global, and I'll call it the non-reimbursed, in other words, it doesn't fall under some sort of insurance company reimbursement agenda. That market for that type of wellness globally is 1.4 trillion. And I'd never seen. I'm sorry, I had that number wrong. It's 4.2 trillion.
It's 4. Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'd never seen a market that large, and thought, so where do we fit in? And then as we dug into the market and where the money was going, it was clear that this our applications for aesthetics, anti-aging, skin rejuvenation, scalp rejuvenation, body contouring, those types of things were highly valuable in that stack. And so what we did is we looked at a brand that we could bring to market in type of a spa type fashion. But to Mike's earlier point, being able to take this technology out to the masses. And so we branded it Quelliv. The idea is that that's what the effect of this technology is. It quells cytokine storms. It quells mitochondrial dysfunction, and it restores the body's ability to heal itself, and using nothing more than this laser technology. And the whole idea of being able to take this out to the masses took us in some very interesting paths. Over the past few years now, we've tested several different formats for delivery. We've tested medical office buildings for delivery, because it would allow us to tent up an office very quickly, but that had some difficulties. But we're finally now settled in on the type of retail rollout that we're going to launch. We're also debugging our equipment configurations and also our list of services. So we've got a lot of that hard work, and I would call the expensive work, done. And then what we also did, again, this based on my background, we tried to get the company positioned and ready for an early stage IPO. And part of the reason for that was of the 4 founders, Mike and I are both founders. Dr. Castellini, our inventor, is a founder, but also Tony is a founder. And from in the investment banking world and the capital markets world, one of the things that really makes a company more valuable or more interesting is to have somebody that has some influence in the larger marketplace. And Tony certainly does. He has a lot of cachet based on his being an amateur biohacker too. So not only does he understand the technology, but he owns the technology. He's a true believer. And so what we and he's anxious to Mike's point to put Dr. Castellini on the map. But what we asked him to do is, as soon as, if you can wait till we have a ticker symbol, then you can tell the whole world. So that's kind of what we're working on. We're doing all those preliminary steps to get the company audited, get the SEC counsel in place. We've already got our S1, our registration statement ready and done. So the expectation is here that sometime in 2025, we're going to be listing the company publicly on the New York Stock Exchange.
So a fantastic intro, and there's really a lot of directions I can go there. And one of the compelling things from the jump, Mike, and I also played football growing up, high school, so concussions, right? Knee injuries, knee surgeries. I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. I have been for 2-3 years. Yeah, I started back in Florida at Gracie Bradenton. A lot of those guys, and I imagine a chunk of this wellness industry, if you for the people with a lot of concussions or concussive injuries, right? They talk about going to those the oxygenated chambers or the cryo chambers.
Biometric, hyperbaric. Yeah,
hyperbaric chambers, and then you have the jiu-jitsu guys. They'll get massages from time to time, especially if they're training a lot. They have a competition coming up. Laser, I know luxury laser places have emerged on the market. I guess the first question is, for people in those types of sports, what do the lasers provide that the hyperbaric chamber or the massage does not?
It's interesting that you asked that, Ryan, because this was a question that we had with Dr. Castellini a couple years ago, and it was based on I listened to a Howard Stern clip. He was talking to Joe Namath, and Joe Namath was really struggling with CTE. It was affecting his just his whole outlook, his mental outlook on life. And a neurologist suggested maybe he do hyperbaric therapy. And so he said, no reason not to try it. It's non-invasive. So he committed they did a baseline scan of his brain. He went in and did 40 sessions, which is like 40 back to back. So like 40 days in a row. And these are long sessions. These are not short sessions. And they did a scan after those 40 sessions, and they found recovery. And he ended up completing 3 series of those. And at the end, on his final scan, they saw that there was no more CTE in his scan. So I asked Dr. Antonio about that, and he said, we can do better than that. And he started talking about the cognitive health side. And it's a very interesting, because I was just listening to the Joe Rogan podcast with Mel Gibson this week.
Yeah.
And Mel Gibson talked about suffering from CTE from playing rugby and other assaults on his cranium. And he did the same thing. He did it with Dr. Amen, Mike. And he did 40 sessions, and it cleared it all up. So one of the things that was interesting about this, that Dr. Castellini's technology does several things, and I'll let Mike talk about it, especially on the cognitive side, because this cognitive device that we've developed has some real exciting implications for professional athletes, but also for people that are just have some difficulty.
Yeah, the big thing about when you say cognitive, or the massage for your fighters, to professional football players, to the guy that falls down the stairs, right?
Sure.
We all get concussions. We all get pain. The challenge that's out there, that's in the market, Ryan, is red light therapy is everywhere, right?
Yes.
Lasers are red light therapy, and they're really not. Red light therapies are red lights. Okay. They're red lights. So you take the light that's over your head, put a red bulb in there. That's red light therapy. Put in 300 of them. You have a laser that they call red light therapy. It's not. Red light does not have a wavelength. It doesn't have a frequency penetrate deep enough into the body. Lasers will penetrate, and all red lights are done with LEDs. We didn't come close to using LEDs. Dr. Antonio worked for NASA. and design what we'll call NASA diode chips. And and our lasers are all done with these chips. These chips provide the ability to put multiple wavelengths through those chips. So when you're laying under the laser, and in this case, this is an example here, you're laying underneath it. There's almost 200 of these chips underneath. If I can bend it up, you'll see there's like 200 of these chips. And those chips have 1 to 2 to 3 wavelengths each, all designed for different specific items. One laser does not fit all. This happens to be a pain laser. We have lasers like what Scott was referencing, cognitive. We have lasers for parasitic infections, lasers for neuropathy, lasers for prostate, lasers for anti-aging for the women, lasers to break down the cellulite in your legs. And the reason they're all different, and everybody goes, well, can't you just make one that has a little button you push and you go from one to the other? And the answer is no, because different issues, and this is the brainchild of Dr. Antonio. He understands which wave at which power affects the nerve system that takes care of the nerve that takes care of the problem or the symptom to get rid of the inflammation. And the main concept of all this is the laser with substantial power, and I'll talk about the power differences in a minute. They'll penetrate your bone marrow, actually creates fresh blood, oxygenates the cells, right, which gets rid of the inflammation. And most disease and problems come from inflammation in the body. So when you talk about your fighters, right, they are hurt, they get the massage, and they want to maybe break down some of the inflammation, right, with the massage. The laser can do it and nobody touches you, right? Because when you do some massages, sometimes massages can be dangerous, right?
Yes.
And I don't want, people do it too rough, and that's because your body is a nervous system. And when they're putting pressure on the spine and pressure on the nerves, it changes things. I don't want to get too much into the medical side, but what I'm going to get at is the average laser on the street, laser, not red light therapy, laser, and there's maybe 4 or 5 of them that I would call laser, run anywhere from 20 to 50 watts of power, and they push out 1, maybe 2 waves. Right? This particular unit I'm having here pushes out 3,500 watts of power. All right. And we do 12 to 15 waves. All right.
Wow.
So they're all going at different angles and different depths. So it's easy when you have most lasers are like a probe, like a flashlight. And so you have a carpet, your wrist hurts. So they put the laser on there, or your neck hurts, and they try to find the spot. I don't have to find the spot. I put this over your neck. It's got the whole thing covered. And it's getting multiple angles from all over and going multiple depths. Quick reverb into the cognitive that Scott talked about. The cognitive laser, it takes more power to penetrate the brain, the skull, to access the brain. The brain is like jello, all right? And when you get a concussion, so you're a football guy and you're going up and you hit a guy, bam, the head hits, the brain, like jello, goes forward, but the nerves are back to your spine. They get pulled out a little bit, right? So as they get pulled out, that's where down the road guys have problems with speaking, dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, etc. So what the laser does, it signals the brain to strengthen the other nerves that actually talk to the gut to bring up nutrients and blood from the gut to the brain, to strengthen the nerves that are remaining that weren't damaged. Do we heal Parkinson's and concussions? No. Do we mitigate the problem from it and slow down the growth of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's? Absolutely, 100%. So it's a phenomenal. The concussion protocol stuff is phenomenal. Pain ones are phenomenal, and the women love the anti-aging and the body contour.
And I wanted to, Scott, you can go ahead if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was going to say, to put a finer point on this, what's interesting is we focused on the aesthetic side because it falls below the FDA's radar. So everything that you see Quelliv doing out in the public is all going to be in that aesthetic category. But what's Dr. Castellini's technology is doing is it's opening up all kinds of doors for all kinds of research into other aspects, in other maladies, which are in that reimbursement category. And so those conversations, whether it's cancer and cancer recovery, whether it's a cognitive impairment because of CTE, whether it's neuropathy, MS, um,
Wow.
yeah, MS as well. But there's a lot of research opportunities for us that are being offered. So one of the things that we're trying to do is we just want to get our retail ground game established, and allow that to open up doors for us to go into these subsets, which are very large sections of the market, but do it with being well capitalized and not running the same risk as say a small public life science company that doesn't have revenue, doesn't have an infrastructure, and is a little bit vulnerable. So that's as the company matures, you'll start seeing us talk more about those opportunities.
And what we see in our facilities, I'm sorry, Ryan, when someone comes in and they're in pain, okay,
Yes.
they think they have sciatica and their leg hurts, okay, and they can't sleep because they're laying in bed and they can't hurt. So they think, I have pain in my leg. What can I do for my leg? It's not in their leg. It's in the base of their spine. So what we do is we turn people over. We put the pain laser over their spine. The sciatica nerve gets the right wavelengths, which gets rid of the inflammation and the pressure, and the pressure goes away, and the nerve's gonna. Now, does it mean you'll never have sciatica ever again? Well, you're going to go swing a golf club at 100 miles an hour for 18 holes. Yeah, you may. Okay, but you can come back in and do this as opposed to a shot or a pill or some test to let's see if we can work on whatever your issue is. And people come in and they have pain in their gut. I don't know what it is. I have pain in my stomach. I don't know what it is. Well, they have parasitic infection. All right. So everybody has a different pain from something, but it all falls under this pain definition, but it isn't a one laser fits all, unfortunately, even though our friends in the red light therapy world would like to make you think that their red lights can heal everything from cancer to heart disease to MS, and it can't.
Yeah, that whole space kind of blows my mind. And even going beyond the lasers, I mean, some people swear by, chiropractic medicine, and then other people I know have been hurt from that type of stuff, like some maybe permanently, which is so. And then you have like Reiki. My sister goes to Reiki. I'm like, I could give you Reiki therapy. Like I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
I am.
So yeah, it's again, I'm sure people will be offended by this, but I know, and one of the other things I wanted to touch on with the Quelliv technology, and Scott, you and I spoke about this a while back, what the body contouring specifically, because on the website, it says that you guys reduce fat. What is the power being generated from that particular laser, and what's that whole experience like? It sounded visceral, but
I can tell you about the experience, and Mike can tell you about the science. As Mike was introducing me to Dr. Antonio, we were thinking about the menu of services. He said, "Why don't you go see the doc?" And so I went and brought my wife with me, and she was able to get the anti-aging treatments. And then he did for me the fat treatment. I had just a couple of weeks earlier watched a TED Talk in which a biochemistry scientist out of Australia was talking about how fat leaves the body. And he started off asking the question, how do you think fat leaves your body? And everybody then, well, you burn it, or you do this, you do that. And at the end of listening to everybody's theory, he said, it's from your breath. He said, fat exits your body from your breath. It's metabolized in your lungs. And then and that's why cardio is so good for getting rid of fat, because you're breathing it out and getting rid of it. Well, I was sitting under this the laser for, it was probably a 45-minute session, and toward the end, I started smelling what was like popcorn oil, and I thought that was very weird. And so when I get out, I asked Dr. Antonio. I said, "You know what? I think I smelled the fat on my breath." He said, "Yeah, That's exactly what that was. The fat exiting through your breath. And he said, "How did you know that?" And I told him about the TED talk, but it worked right away. And what the laser is able to do, think almost like a high tech acupuncture, where it's able to go in and surgically touch exactly the area or exactly the cell that it needs to touch without doing damage anyplace else. I'll let Mike talk about.
Yeah, it's not right.
That's incredible.
It comes out in your breath, comes out in urine, comes out in sweat, right? But the main concept of it, this is not a weight loss product. Okay.
Right.
I'll make that very clear. This is body contouring. So the weight loss stuff, whether it's liposuction or cool sculpting, those can cause a lot of damage. All right. I know I probably offend people saying that, but it's a fact, right? You know, you don't stick a tube in your side and suck out fat and not think you're not going to have trouble, right?
Right.
But what this does is let's just use body contouring on the legs. Women, as they age, they get that cellulite, right? And that, that it's like popcorn on the legs, right?
Yes.
And what the laser does, it's not too much power actually, because it's on the skin surface. It's not that deep, so it's not going down real deep. It's more of the surface layer, and what it does, it breaks that up. All right, and then we follow up with a smoother laser, which is a green light actually that actually smooths. So it's not a weight loss. It's people lose inches, but not weight. Makes sense. And it smooths things. So we have one in our home, right? It's one of the perks of being in the business, right?
Being in this, yes.
And before we go to the beach, 3 days before we go, my wife's living under it. Okay?
Right. So
Because
I was going to say, how many sessions? And I guess it depends on the person, but it's pretty amazing.
It's really amazing, but it also depends on, right? I mean, you could talk about it just till the cows come home, how great our product is. You got to put down the fork, right?
Right.
I mean, you can't be.
Of course, you can't outrun the fork. That's what my dad says.
Don't get a laser treatment and order 2 large pizzas. Okay.
Right.
It ain't gonna happen. Okay.
Yeah.
But and it's always in conjunction with what you're eating and drinking a lot of water. But the body contouring is more getting rid of that surface layer of fat. And I'll be honest, if it was a weight loss product, I'd fall asleep under it and wake up in the morning and be 20 pounds lighter, right? So it's not a weight loss product. Okay, so
it's not a magic wand.
I don't want to mislead people.
Right.
And like the anti-aging is not as much power either, because you want to rebuild the collagen. So you get rid of the fine lines that people have, right? Because they start looking, as we age, you don't have that problem yet, Ryan, but as you get up in the older age,
it's
like
coming.
Mom would be, you start getting the wrinkles and stuff, and this will break that down and smooth it, right? But
the way to think about it too is that this technology, this laser, this light technology, and these wavelengths are activating the mitochondria. It's activating functions that your body should be doing on its own. And sometimes it just needs a little jump start, or it's gotten sluggish. And so it stimulates those things. So even like in the idea of fat reduction, what it's doing is it's making your body kind of realign those things. And that's really what the science will tell you. When you go through the research and you read all the research out there, it's really trying to get the body to do what it does naturally.
Yes.
Yeah, and you'll find also, Ryan, I apologize, keep going on it. Shut me down.
No, go right ahead.
Too long. People come in because let's say they have back pain. Okay. So we hit them on the back, right? But you also have to put the laser on their face, because the face is like the engine, your key to the car. You're turning on the ignition by you laser the face. And then it activates all the nerves that go all the way down through your gut to your calves. Now, while we're doing that, you're also cleaning out the lymph system in the body. Those are things people don't even realize, because you don't know if your lymph hurts. But when the lymph systems get toxic on a woman by their breasts, they get breast cancer. Men get it down in their prostate area. They get prostate cancer. So it's cleaning out those lymph nodes, and the lymph nodes go from your ears all the way down to your feet, man. And people don't realize it. They say, I got a lymph problem. It's all the way down. They're like little walnuts, little shells all the way down to your body. And they're connected with the nerves and the blood flow, right? So it empties those things out and cleans them out simultaneously. So there's all the side benefits. Blood flow and oxygen blood flow and oxygen heals.
Right.
Right. And it's hard for disease to grow in a body that has a lot of oxygen and a lot of fresh blood.
No, and I like that approach that you guys are taking, in that it's not a magic wand. It's not one size fits all. It should be in addition to a healthy lifestyle or what your goals are. I suppose the actual treatment that you're getting, and Scott, you touched on it a little bit about the scientific validation, um, and Dr. Castellini. How much in the way? I know that you guys are doing IP and working on that stuff. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, we've started a process with a group that's helping us to codify our IP, and specifically how this technology is being applied to specific applications. So they're drilling down into all these different applications, what science is doing it, what methods are we using. And it looks like right now we'll end up, by the time we take the company public, that we'll have a pretty substantial IP portfolio.
Nice.
The idea is to patent and codify all these this whole arsenal, and it's a pretty large volume of IP that's being developed. So we hope to have that. We hope to have that kind of wrapped up about the same time we list the company, because it's a high asset value for us. But the other thing too is that there's some of these research projects that are kind of coming to us,
Okay.
because there are a lot of foundations that back or follow or are advocates for certain types of issues, whether it's MS, whether it's what's the gentleman down in Nashville, Mike,
The breathing.
young.
I was just thinking that, Scott. I lost my thought on it. The guy that can't
Yeah.
breathe. I'll keep
With
going.
the
and I'll
lungs?
think of it.
Lung disorder.
CPO, or I forget the name. My grandfather had it. He
That's
survived lung
COPD.
cancer.
No, this is something
COPD.
that kids get.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll come up with it while you're talking. Go ahead. There's a number of different.
But anyway, and then also with cancer research, and also prostate research, there's a lot of opportunities that are coming our way that we're hoping that we can add to this IP portfolio. As we get it to the weeds on this research, we can take our findings and roll them into our IP portfolio too.
And I think
And I understand. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Yep.
Yeah, the thing is, we have to be, we can't heal the world, right, guys? I mean, we're not that animal, and I don't want to make it sound like our legion does everything. You don't need doctors.
Yeah.
That's not the game here. You do need the physicians, you need the hospitals, you need the FDA.
Right.
But we got to pick the verticals that we want to go after rather aggressively, and that's why Scott broke it down into pain, aging, body contouring, hair growth. Now, pain has a lot of subsections in it, but pain can you can go into wound healing. Like in Tony's book, Tony did I don't know if you ever saw it here.
Well, he's Genesis 1. Is that when he mentioned the laser?
That's us.
Yeah.
Well, if you look in there too, there's a picture of a knee where a guy had knee surgery, and after 5 days, what it looked like 10 days and 20 days and 30 days. That's my knee, actually. And
whoa, I didn't
how
know
fast the laser heals and breaks through the scar tissue. So it smooths it out. So now I don't even you can barely see the scar 1.5 years later. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So
what was
there's
the
a
surgery?
number of different verticals. Pardon me?
What was the surgery? A knee replacement?
Total knee replacement. Replacement.
Yeah, and this goes back to, again, what the technology actually does is get the body to do what it does naturally. It just gives it a jump start, a kick start, and it's completely non-invasive. In fact, to Mike's illustration, Dr. Antonio actually has his offices down near Hoag Medical Center in Newport Beach, which is one of the top orthopedic surgery centers in the country. A lot of elite athletes get their work done there. And what a lot of these physicians will do is they'll pay Dr. Antonio to come in post-op and laser the incision, the wound, to jumpstart healing, to activate the mitochondria, get oxygen moving, breaking down the inflammation that is always going to be present from a surgical procedure. And they get much better results, much faster healings.
Yeah.
again, it's all this is doing is really activating the body to do what it does naturally, and just kind of gives it a jump start.
So let's pivot. Mike, what do you want to add? One more thing?
I'll add one thing on it, what to make our lasers different, because Scott kind of woke me up on that. There isn't a laser on the planet that puts out more power than Genesis 1. There's not a laser on the planet that puts out more simultaneous wavelengths than Genesis 1. In addition to the waves and the power, it has, we put in virus protection wavelengths. So if you're laying underneath this laser and you have the flu, you have COVID, whatever it is, you cough. Nobody in there is going to get it because it's going to kill the infection in the air. All right. Number 3, it has an oxygen ionizer. So not only are you getting fresh oxygen from the fresh blood flow, you're breathing oxygen from the ionizer from the machine itself. So you've got oxygen, virus protection, multiple wavelengths, and obscene amounts of power that it's not like a flashlight. You know, you go out in the woods and you put your flashlight on a tree because you think you see a bear out there. After about 20 minutes, what happens to that flashlight? It gets less and less powerful, right? Because it starts to diminish. Never, not one bit. It's pushing 4,000 watts from the time you turn it on to the time it goes off. And you can do it 10 times a day on different customers, and it doesn't change the power.
And this is part of the IP that Genesis 1 lasers had developed, right? And and that was good, great point to bring up, because I feel like you guys do distinguish yourself well. And so just from what I do with Arendite, we get a lot of deal flow from companies in similar positions to you guys, maybe a little bit early stage in that space, and a lot of luxury laser companies. And I turned down all of them except for you guys, and a lot of them came after connecting with Scott earlier last year. So I feel like that is noticeable from the branding from the jump. You guys do a great job. You're just not franchising more red light therapy, which I think is huge. And speaking on towards my business, I deal with a lot of family offices. I advise a lot of families, and sometimes I feel like it resurges, and sometimes I feel like it's beating a dead horse. But the idea of ESG, I think it just matters, and maybe that's has political connotations, but the idea of impact investing and investing funds, working with companies that are providing good, that have integrity, and that are also providing a service, life-changing service. I feel like you guys really fit super well into that bucket. You're both really great operators, Scott and Mike, in your respective backgrounds. What have the investors that you've been interacting been like? Have you talked to a lot of family offices? Tell me about that.
Yeah, we have. In fact, we're just wrapping up our C round with a handful of investors. 2 of those have their own family offices, and part of their motivation was they wanted to be a part of something big, kind of a movement. And to Tony's earlier interest in putting Dr. Antonio on the map, the idea again here is to take what would normally be an ultra high net worth personal health toy or tool, and bring it out to the masses so that everybody can afford it. So from an ESG perspective, we're trying to take this science out to everybody so everybody can benefit from it. The other thing too that I think motivated some of them was our readiness with respect to a public offering, and then Tony's readiness to help us promote it once we have our ticker symbol. Those are good motivations, because it creates kind of an interesting window of opportunity for a family office that they might not otherwise see. So that's kind of I think why we've sparked some interest there.
I think also what we have that separates a little bit too is these red light companies that are out there, they put millions of dollars into how beautiful their laser looks. They're still red lights.
Yeah.
They're still
it's marketing.
Yeah. And they're beautiful. We put 10 times that into the function and make sure it works. Okay.
Right.
So ours may not look like a spaceship yet, because we wanted to make sure it will get to the planet. Right. And
right.
Where ours is all based on function, not so much
science first. Science first, beauty second. And to put a finer point on this, and one of the other reasons I think a lot of the family offices that we talk to were attracted is this is not an R&D play. This is market ready, already commercialized technology. We commercialize with the professional athletes and collegiate programs and professional programs on the Genesis One side, where we sell it commercially to the people that can write the big check, but then also the development with Quelliv, with the Quelliv centers for the masses. Everything's built. There's no more R&D. Everything's built. So their investment isn't going to push something along that's not already commercially viable.
And we're the one. And what's different too, when you go out down the street, you go to the 10 wellness centers you drive by when you go down the main street. They're all wellness centers, right? And they all sell 90% the same thing.
Yes.
They all have a red light. They all have a cool dip. They're all doing vitamin shots, and they're all doing maybe exosomes, and they're all doing maybe they have a cheap hyperbaric in there, right?
Yes.
None of them have this technology. This is where we stand out, and that's why we'll be different. And I'm not saying that other stuff doesn't help people. Massage feels good and jacuzzi, guys. It's great. So is a cold dip. But nobody has this technology, and no one's going to get it. And I use this term frequently. We're not yesterday's technology. We're not today's technology improved. We're beyond tomorrow's technology, and that's how far advanced this is in the laser world. All right.
Right, and I love that, and I like the idea too of democratizing the access. Because you're right, athletes get the best of the best. Before stem cells were legal, UFC fighters, NFL players, or other, major league guys, they would be able to go to Mexico or
Panama, Costa Rica.
Panama, to get the best stem cell. And then, I think the Institute of Florida now is starting to become big for, the PP, PRP.
PRP, platelet-rich plasma. Yep.
Yes, but that's an example of it breaking through. Yeah, go ahead.
In fact, what's interesting too, Ryan, that you bring that up. There's a few practitioners that have discovered that our technology, in particular, actually activates both PRP and stem cell applications. So much so that what they use, their protocol calls for taking the specimen, the extraction, and then holding it over our light to activate it, then injecting it back, and then putting the laser on there. And they find that the efficacy goes up exponentially by hundreds by doing that. So that's those type of results and those types of testing and things that we've been doing. I don't want to say we're going to jump into that business, but if we're not a good adjunct, it's one of those that we're seriously looking at as well, because of the how popular those injectables have become.
Right. And it's not also, even the PRP and injectables, the peptides too, I think are starting to come around.
Yeah.
I've been looking into that. I feel like, and that's also not a one-stop solve everything. So
that's right.
If you can hit that trifecta and make that available to people, the average person that can walk in and get the treatment, that's changing the landscape of sports medicine and just medicine and treatment in general, pushing it 20 years forward.
And Scott and I've talked about this. We're really considering bringing a lot of that into our centers, not just because it's better, but it'll introduce people to our lasers. The market wants peptides. The market wants exosome shots, right? They want vitamin drips.
PRP.
Right? But now when they come in, they're going to find the laser, and they're going to find out that they use it more. They need less of that because our lasers providing your body produces its own V cells and stem cells when you're creating fresh blood through the bone marrow, right?
Right.
So those I'm not saying you don't need that stuff. What I'm saying is they're going to find they need less of it. And by the way, it's a lot more economical to do a laser session than it is to get a stem cell shot.
But the interesting thing was that there were two different researchers that we met in two different arenas. that both discovered that our technology does something that they can't do on their own, and that it really activates those cells. Both made independent discoveries, both did their own independent research, and both are crazy about using our technology to enhance their applications for their clients. So that research is showing some good evidence that it's something we need to be serious about.
And let's talk a little bit. I know we're approaching the near end here about the expansion strategy. I read that you guys are planning to scale 500 senders in 2 years.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The way our current financial model or detailed financial model is set up, it's kind of like a retail rollout. Going back to Mike's earlier history in retail rollout. The idea was we wanted to spend these past couple of years trying to figure out which format works best, and also kind of distill down our operations, our marketing, and get all that stuff dialed in before we really turned the burner up. And we've got those things figured out now. We got our next path here that we're going to go on. But what we also learned was that there's a lot of practitioner interest in our technology. We sell commercially to people that are in aesthetic medicine, that are in wound care, you name it. There's a lot of physicians that rely on our technology, a lot of sports medicine. And what that's done is kind of open up some doors for us to maybe consider partnerships as a way to roll out our footprint. So what we've done is we've taken an approach where most of our main approach and our main use of proceeds is to open up our own centers where we own all the equipment, we own everything that's in there, we own the footprint, the real estate footprint, and that's good for our balance sheet, obviously.
Yes.
And there's no franchising in our model whatsoever. We get asked all the time, and we have enough access to capital. We don't need to franchise. But with these practitioner community that's growing very, very rapidly, what that's allowed us to do is look at our baseline technology and look at some supplementation to it that would allow us to set up our own 5G network where we could put a piece of equipment in at our expense in a local facility, still running appointments out of our network, drawing that traffic to a local practitioner where all they do is push a button and it'll build their location and it'll build the client at the same time. And that would allow us to scale up local opportunities very quickly because we have so much demand on the practitioner side. So that 500 locations, probably more than half of them are going to be company-owned locations. But the other half will squarely be one of these affiliates that we set up. We do a rev share where it's our equipment. We own it. It's in the location. But somebody that's watching over it and administering each application gets a piece of the action through an automated transaction process.
We're doing that also now with, we're also looking at doing that with golf courses, by the way.
Right.
Private golf clubs that have, here in Florida, they're pretty substantial. And a couple that we're talking to now that are not just talks, we're in the final stage, we'll go in and they have 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 members that they will do a partnership deal with them and all their membership within their clubs. So that gets us just tremendous exposure into those different markets that we normally couldn't touch, without having that bricks and mortar right outside their front door, So we're not going to do that.
So and that's incredible, and a lot of updates today during this too, which is exciting. You guys are closing up the Series C round.
Right.
What's the next round? What are we looking at for the pre-IPO or IPO round? What's the future of Quelliv? And for the investors that are listening to this, why would now be the right time to jump on the bandwagon?
Yeah, great question. What we're looking at on this D round, we've socialized the idea of another 10 million to kind of button things up, and that would dovetail a $10 million round on the C side that we're getting ready to close down. And then what we would expect to do is accelerate some of our process. Let's say we close our D round by maybe by June. The goal would be before the end of 2025 to have the company trading. So things would accelerate. So I would say the motivation for for an investor for this round is they're kind of the last one in the roller coaster before it gets ready to take off. So and it's a rare. Usually that's only friends and family, and in fact, it's really funny. I always hear people talk about how some of the elite make money, and it's because they're connected to deal flow. They're
That's
connected
right.
to, and it's not just perfect timing. They got to because they had a friend that put the deal together and
Yes.
and allowed them. So it's kind of the old boys network. But that's really, I think, why people would be motivated to look at this, because they get to be the last ones in the vote as we get ready to do our big launch in the equity markets.
And Mike, how excited is Tony about this opportunity? I know you guys are kind of keeping him in the chamber for the IPO, and I understand why. Um, what I know that he brought it to your attention. What's it been like working, with him behind the scenes?
Well, Tony's not just a founder to me. Tony's been my best friend for 48 years. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know he was your
So,
best friend. Oh, wow.
yeah, we've been best buddies, man, since he was 18 years old. I was
No
the
kidding.
22-year-old. We were selling seminar tickets, man, way back. Godfather to my kids, the whole game, man. It's family. But,
Wow.
it's neat working with Tony. I mean, Tony's involved in a lot of entities, right? He's in
Well,
a
yeah.
100 different companies, right? But in answer what he thinks, Tony's big thing now is on a number of different areas. He's pretty well achieved the economics that most people would never achieve, right? But
Yes.
his big thing now is making a difference on this spinning planet. And
Yes.
he's real big on feeding America. He's real big on health issues. He's real big on abused kids and stuff in that arena. But with Tony on this, how do I explain it? Tony has 5 lasers in his house. We made him a laser bed for his home. He has a laser bed
I heard
in
that.
his warehouse where he has his big screens where he does live performances online. And when he
Yes.
has a break, he goes in and lays under his laser bed. We don't have those in our stores, and I'm not selling those. They're difficult. But Tony's on the A list, and he has it on his jet. He has them in his
Yes.
different homes. So to
He'll be
answer your
wearing them
question, he has
soon.
them everywhere. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, does he do other things? Absolutely. Oh no, he does other things. But when he has a health issue, I'll be honest, what he does a lot of times he'll call me up and he said, "Can you call Dr. Antonio and ask him what I should do about this?" Right?
Yes.
Even though he's exposed to the best of the best, without a doubt. So whether it's a stem cell guy in Panama or Costa Rica, or whether it's somebody overseas in Europe, Tony's exposed to all that. But he's on his jet going over there and he's laying under a laser. Ours.
And
Yes.
to put a cherry on top of that, he's been really supportive through the building of this. He's been very patient and very supportive, and he knows where where we need him to shine. But extremely supportive, loves what we're doing, always encouraging. And as you're building out one of these things from time to time, even though your conviction is what's leading you, you still need, it's nice to have a pat on the back to say, you're doing the right thing. Just keep it going. Just keep it going.
Yeah.
Just keep it going.
Yes.
We do. One of the things when he came out of this book, right? He mentions Genesis 1. That's before we had Quelliv, actually.
Yes.
Right.
And I got 300 phone calls from around the world saying, "Hey, can you come and do a demo here in Dubai? Can you come and do it in Germany?
Oh
Can
my
you come and
God.
do it in Toronto, Seattle?" I go, "Hey, I'm in Florida. I don't have a sales staff of 50, right? Can you come here and
Right.
I'll treat you, right?" But
Right.
so to use a guy like Tony, you better be ready to launch.
Right.
All right. This isn't your local influencer. This is
No, he
well,
could. Yeah.
yeah,
They
it's
blow
global.
up the whole business now in the stage with the locations you have. Maybe I'll
We
edit
look
this
like an
bit out.
idiot that we can't perform.
Well,
So I know.
you know firsthand, Ryan, how important that and what investment bankers look for is not just a great story, but a great promote. That you need rocket power, you need rocket fuel, you need influence to bring
Yes.
it out to markets. And that's why I think we have such good traction and such strong interest from the investment banking community, because they see not only is this great science with a great opportunity in a huge market, but having somebody like Tony that's first and foremost, by the way, a true believer. He bought and uses and believes in the technology, and is a founder. So this is not like a contrived sponsorship or influencer relationship. He is one of us. He's part of this original
Yes.
founders group. So, but those things make it very exciting from the capital markets perspective. And I
Right.
keep telling the story. I said, what I'm hoping is, because we want to trade on the New York, that's where our lawyers want us to go, and that's where we're heading. And I've got a good relationship there with the New York Stock Exchange. But I can imagine the visual of Tony being up there ringing the bell for us on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, and then him going down and talking to Jim Cramer afterwards. It'll be a great day.
100%. He was just on the Patrick Bet David podcast by
Yes.
you guys in
Yeah.
South Florida. Yeah,
Yeah.
a week ago. So that's why he was top of mind with all of this. And yeah, he's juggling a lot, obviously.
You know
but
what? It's funny. I had to get off topic here, but I got a phone call from some guy that knows I know Tony, and he goes, "Is it true about Tony?" And he lost like $100 million on a deal. Was that what they talked about in that show?
Yeah, I think there was something he talked about in that.
And I said to him, I go, "Yeah, was it the deal when he was going to partner with Amway?" And
he did mention
one of the family members of Amway, and he goes, "You know about this stuff?" I said, "I've known Tony for 48 years. I've lived it with Tony."
that's right.
And he goes, "Is it true? Is it true? Did he really?" I go, "Yeah, he ain't lying. I'm telling you right now, he lost about $150 million bucks to my knowledge."
Well, he's made it up and then some.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, I get these calls all the time.
That's so funny. Yeah, so you get blown up anytime he does a public interview.
Yeah. Especially if he mentions my name, then it's absurd. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully your number's not too public. But it sounds like people are getting a hold of you anyways. So just thank you guys again for joining. And I think Quelliv, this is really exciting. I think investors listening, is a huge opportunity. Not another red light company. These guys are really changing things and trying to make a huge impact in the wellness space. Mike, Scott, do you guys want to have any last words for today?
I don't. I'm grateful for your time, Ryan. Thank you very much. I mean, as we mentioned before, it's not, Scott and I were both we didn't need another job. Okay. Number one, when we started this. And neither did Tony. But I really felt compelled. I got into this not because I can make a deal and make a commission on selling a laser. It's because I think we can make a difference in the quality of people's lives.
Yes.
And if I felt that if I didn't do this, it wouldn't get exposed to the masses. It would be that one doctor in Newport Beach taking care of a couple of patients that know who he is.
Right.
Yes.
And that's why I got into it, period. Scott?
Yeah. Yeah, same thing. I mean, when you spend time with Dr. Antoni, you understand his passion to really help lots of people. It's just that he's one man, and he needs a team like ours around to really get this out there and to do the kind of good that he wants to do. This is our best path to doing that. So
I'd encourage any of your people that you want to come and just try it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
open invitation for any of your viewers.
Yeah, you can buy our portfolio. You can look at our paperwork and all the other stuff. Come and try it, because I've never had anyone come in and not have a result on the first session.
That's a great idea.
Healed,
Ryan,
just fun.
Just
try.
Make sure that that's available at the end if you want. Put
this at the start.
Yeah, give them a complimentary visit to one of our Florida locations.
Okay. Get them down to St. Pete or Naples or wherever they want to go and work on their tan, and come and do a couple of visits on us, man. And you'll blow their mind. I'm just going to leave it there.
All right. I'll include a link to the website for people that want to check it out, and put in plugs for you guys and your LinkedIn's and all of that. So thanks again for joining. I might take you up on that offer too the next time I'm in town. It's getting really cold here in New York anyway.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Thanks, Ryan.
But thank you guys, and have a great rest of your day. And listeners, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Ryan. Good to be with you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. That's a wrap on today's episode of Founders and Fortunes. Huge thanks to Mike Keys and Scott Absher for taking us behind the scenes of Quelliv's cutting-edge laser technology, how it's transforming recovery and performance, and what's next as they prepare for a public listing. Be sure to subscribe to Founders and Fortunes so you don't miss future episodes. And if you want to learn more about Quelliv or experience the technology yourself, check the show notes for a special invitation from Mike and Scott to visit one of their Florida locations. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep building, keep investing, and keep forging ahead. Take care.